Good morning! Hi Spectre, yes it is a retro arcade motif because I like pixel art and I like retro arcade stuff, even if I don't actually play a lot of retro games. I like a good pixel game, like Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight. I'm terrible at it. I've never gotten past like the 3rd checkpoint, but I love it. Maybe someday I'll do a stream in the future where you can see how terrible I am at video games. How are you doing this morning, Spectre? Yeah, that's like a thing for Sundays, I feel like. I don't know, every day, either Sunday is the day that all the chores have to get done, or they're super lazy and nothing gets done. And I love it. I also hate it because it usually means that I have to go to work the next day. Do you have any big plans for the week? Or today, if you have to run any errands? Vacation. Oh, yes, you did say that because of the holiday. I'm excited for Thanksgiving. I'm so excited for Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. Partially because my birthday is always in the week of Thanksgiving, but also... Oh, okay. But also because, like, honest to God, my family is like a bunch of hobbits. And we love Thanksgiving. Or I think we do. Because I speak for everyone. No. I don't know, even as a kid, I always thought Thanksgiving was like the better holiday. Mostly because I could eat as many mashed potatoes as I could physically fit into my body without exploding. Sorry, I'm gonna try not to yawn in the microphone, but I did not sleep very well last night. So I've started out this morning with caffeinated tea, and I made like a huge mug. I'm halfway through it, but I might need coffee afterwards. Probably isn't a good thing. I don't know if I should have caffeinated tea and then coffee. That might just be raising my caffeine intake when I'm trying to do the opposite. Yeah, no, that's a method. I'm a little against head trauma, but to each his own. Oh God. So there was, speaking of head trauma, there was this one time, I don't know if you remember those Mac Berry computers, where like the Mac, oh, I thought I heard something in my studio. Like a Mac Berry computer where the entire computer was in the monitor, and it was huge, right? Like those things weighed like 50 fucking pounds, and I was like 7. The iMac, I I think they called them berries because they came in different colors, and there was like blue ones. I think they came out with green ones eventually, but it was mostly just blue and red. Well, we were really poor, but my dad was like, I worked a lot of overnights and overtime, and he got me one so I could play like my little computer games while he worked on his freelance graphic design stuff in the computer room we had. But we lived in this really old farmhouse that was built in like, I want to say the mid 1800s. Like there was not a single right angle in that house because the windows were all weird sizes because they were all put in by hand. And the upstairs room that we used for a computer room was at an angle. Okay, so fancy 5 colors. We only got 3 anyway. But it was at like the floor was angled to a really severe degree, and I was 7, so I didn't weigh a lot. So in like the rolling computer chair that I was in, it would slide out after a little while, and what I would do is I was really small, and I didn't want to have to climb down off of the chair to then have to push the chair back in and then climb back up into the chair. And my dad wasn't always there when I was playing computer games, so I couldn't always ask him to like push me back in, so I would just grab the edge of the desk and I would pull myself back up. And my dad always yelled at me to stop doing that, right? He was like, you're gonna make the computer fall on you. And I was 8, and I was like, I don't care. I was like, that's not gonna happen. It's a desk. Things don't fall off of desks. So I was 8, and I guess I didn't know how gravity worked. Well, I'm doing this one day, and the computer does fall. The computer falls directly onto my head. I don't think I blacked out, but there was a huge crash. And I do remember my dad was really pissed about it, but he was also like really worried I'd hurt myself. So I just remember like laying on like the futon we had in the room next to the computer room with like an ice pack on my head. Yes, and my mom like making sure that like I didn't have a concussion while my dad checked to see if the computer was salvageable, and it was not. Like the screen was destroyed, like there was like a dent. And it's been like the only time I've ever seriously had any head trauma. But I also now know that my skull can destroy a computer. Oh no. I never played with any electrical sockets as a kid. Mostly because I think my grandmother made sure that my dad had all of those like electrical socket covers like everywhere. She put them everywhere, and I was not allowed to touch them. So I guess I thought that the electrical socket covers were dangerous more than the sockets. I did try to run out into traffic once. Apparently I only did it once, and I guess it was the only time my dad ever spanked me. Usually he could just put me in a timeout and I'd cry. But like apparently I just wasn't listening one time and I almost got hit by a car. As compared to all the times when I was an adult. Yeah. How to deal with being electrocuted? Apparently also, so my dad learned graphic design, he was going to school in like the mid to late 90s. And then he had to stop for a little bit as he had a kid, and it was me. And then he went back to school. So I was about 2 or 3, I guess. And he had gotten a computer because his grandfather, my great-grandfather, was an accountant. So he had like the latest computers and everything to do it with. And he gave one of them to my dad to work on like his graphic design, because graphic design had just started to become a digital media at that time. And I guess at like 3 years old, I had seen like the mini floppy disk drive or something. And it was just like an open flop, right? And I had seen the big CDs go into the big slot. So as a kid, my dad tells it that I thought that the small, like these tiny CD-ROMs that he had went in the tiny floppy disk slot. And I guess about a month after he got the computer, I shoved one of the mini CDs into there, and the computer never worked again. I just don't have a good history with technology. I really don't. Oh, okay, so you weren't electrocuted. That's really good. I had a friend who was, when she was we were in elementary school, like early elementary school, she was using like her mom's laptop or something during a thunderstorm, and I guess the cord was frayed at the end where it plugged into the wall, and she was trying to unplug it from the wall, and she electrocuted herself. She was okay. It was like a very small electrocution, but that's how she learned. Through his head. Oh, that means it goes right into his brain, right? I know human anatomy. God, that would be awful. Do you know what would be worse? So, what if he was like playing games and listening to an ambient thunderstorm playlist on Spotify while a thunderstorm was going on outside, and he just didn't know because they just blended in with his headphones? And he got electrocuted through his headphones. And so for a little while, I'm sure he would have the thought of, wow, Spotify Thunder ambient playlist. Oh, he was playing Eve, so he couldn't do that. Eve is kind of intense. Wireless for the win. I'm wearing wireless headphones right now. They're like I like retro looking things. So when I got them, I got a pair that were like really skinny, and they look like Walkman headphones, but they're Bluetooth. Yep. I do like the really big, chunky, like wired headphones that you can wear in like studios, like recording studios. I like those. You can get them Bluetooth now, but a lot of people swear by the ones with the wire jacks. A lot of people in that business, I guess. Do you guys want to hear about the first time my mom ever went to a rave and she didn't know it was a rave? You can answer whatever you want, but I'll probably tell you anyway, but I will pause for courtesy. Okay, so I think I was in my freshman year of college, and I'd gone home for the holiday. For like the full Christmas break. This was the first and only time I did this. And my mom had a very good friend who had like 4 sons. And one of the sons was my age, and he was a DJ. And he would like make his own mixes, and his mom had listened to his music and she liked it, right? But it was kind of like a little bit of EDM. He knew how to play like instruments and classical piano and all that good stuff, but that's not always popular, and that's kind of hard to make money off of. And he was already DJing at venues. And so I was home for the holiday, and Mom was like, oh, we're gonna go to one of his concerts. Because my mom really likes to go dancing. She was very into the club scene when she was in college. She was like, yeah, I want to go to a concert. That sounds fun, and I want to support my friend's son. She was going with her friend. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. And she comes back from it. And I'm talking to her about it the next day, and she was like, people were barely wearing any clothes. Like, there was no real dancing. It was all just that weird grinding thing that kids do. I think a lot of people were on drugs. I don't even think that they were appreciating the music, and it was all blacklit. It was so weird. And I was like, oh, you went to a rave. Mom, you went to a rave. She's like, what is a rave? And I had to explain to her what a rave was. I was like, yep. People probably did not go for the music like you guys did. They probably went to do drugs and to hook up with people. And she's like, it's so weird. Why do people do that? Why don't they just go to concerts to enjoy the music? It was kind of amazing. It was great. She's like, have you ever been to a rave? And I have not, so I could answer very truthfully of no, Mom, I've not been to a rave. She was like, they were in neon bras and weird fuzzy go-go pants. I was like, yeah, that's what they wear. It was amazing. His mom was a little upset about it, I think. She wasn't upset at him. She was just more like, why is this a thing? My parents actually met at a club. They met at a club near the college they were both going to. My mom had gone dancing, and my dad was actually the DJ at the club. He had the night off that night, and he had decided to just go out drinking with his friends. And my mom was like, he was the only guy who actually knew how to dance. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, I guess. Okay. We could talk about Ai Weiwei. Okay. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Ai Weiwei is a very famous, like, postmodern artist / installation artist in China. He's constantly being surveyed by the government. He lived in exile, I think, for a little while, and then they basically were just like, you have to live under house arrest for forever. I don't know what he's doing now. Okay. So, basically every modern art teacher ever, every modern art professor ever in the history of the world that I have met loves him. And it's such a weird thing because he has very good concepts. Okay? He does. He has very good concepts. But what he will do is he will so he came up with the concept of, I think it was like 500 porcelain handmade crabs, right? And it was to represent like, how this fishing village that specialized in like the catching of these crabs, like their livelihood was ruined by mass scale fishing or something like that, right? He commissioned like almost everyone in the town to make these crabs, which is really cool. He helped boost the economy in that town. He did not credit anyone but himself, and that is fucking ridiculous. He came up with the concept. He didn't really execute it. He was essentially just like, what if I paid you guys to make a bunch of crabs? And they were like, cool. He didn't credit like, and he does almost all of his projects like this. All of his like clay-based installations where they're like, it's Ai Weiwei, it's amazing. Almost all of them in the teeniest tiny, like size 8 fine print. It'll be like sculpted by blah, 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 blah. And it'll be like created by Ai Weiwei. Like he didn't create it. He just came up with the idea. Do you have any idea? And it just makes me so angry. And a lot of times his pieces aren't that deep or interesting. But you know the ones he has created all by himself? He has a series of pictures of him destroying artifacts. He's literally taking like centuries old vases and like priceless art that you can't find anywhere else from ancient China and destroying it, right? Where he's like, history is being destroyed. It's just an object. It's just a concept. Our government is destroying it. It's like, no, there's a picture of you destroying it. And yes, you're making a statement, but like in your vast, like conceptual mind, could you not have paid someone to recreate it and then destroyed it and not told anyone, and then maybe like at the end reveal like, I didn't actually destroy it because I'm not a dick who destroys priceless, irreplaceable artifacts? Yeah, it was really hard not to walk out on some lectures where I had to listen to these professors basically have just a fucking like circle jerk over this goddamn guy. And I don't, it's been a while since I've researched him. Maybe he's changed, but I truly doubt it, because he was also making a lot of fucking money off of those fucking photos. It's just 3 photos of him holding a priceless artifact and destroying it. He just drops it, and I just... He had an art installation at a large garden in my state, and my mom was really excited because she likes modern art. She likes modern art and postmodern art, and she likes art that like makes a statement, right? And she had heard a little bit about Ai Weiwei, and she was like, I really like what he's doing. He's like an activist. This is really cool. We should go see it. And me and my dad went, and we had a very hard time not walking out, because that's actually where I learned about the fine print bullshit, and where I started looking more into Ai Weiwei, because before I was just like, okay, I'm just mad that he destroyed art, but maybe he's an actually good artist, right? Because it doesn't seem like he's doing that as much anymore. Nope, now he's doing something even worse. Like, he'll have, like, I think they're almost like apprentices. sorry. I just hate it so much, okay? People work really hard. They take years to hone their craft. Like, he had super realistic sculpted watermelons that were supposed to be a statement about something that I can't even fucking remember. And he had this entire concept right now, because if you go to an art museum, next to each art piece, unless it's like unknown or it's so old that like they no longer have the artist statement on record, it'll just be like, by this person from this and this, and sometimes they'll say like a little bit about the material or something. But for a lot of modern artists, because the artists are still alive, we can still talk to them, we can ask them about like what the piece means. Usually it's fucking bullshit. I gotta tell you, a lot of art school is just learning to fucking bullshit about your projects. I got real good at it. But he came up with this whole artist statement talking about the process of making it, and then it shows in the fine print at the bottom, not even fucking made by him. Just makes me angry. It almost makes me as angry as Jackson Pollock and the fact that he exists and his art pieces aren't laughed out of goddamn museums. Okay. This is a chill Sunday morning stream. Maybe I should relook more into Ah Weiwei. Maybe he's not as much of a dick anymore, because you know what? It has been like 4 years since I've been forced to sit in a lecture and listen about... I had one professor who, it was in my like making and meaning class, because it was a foundations art class that I had to take my freshman year of college, where it was like, okay, you have to take this class so we can know that you know about art. And I'm like, okay, I had to go through a portfolio review and write an artist statement and like take tests to get into this art program, but sure, let's assume that I don't fucking know about art. Okay, cool. We will get to Jackson Pollock, because his bullshit is on a different fucking level. Anyway, I had a teacher, making and meaning. He honest to God looked like Santa's art school younger brother, where he had like the beard and he had the build and he didn't have hair on top of his head and he wore glasses and he was super friendly, had this very soft, relaxing, kind of chill voice, like kind of just let his students like, I once took a ladder out of his classroom to try to get a cat out of a tree and he didn't even question it. I wasn't his student anymore, but he was just like, I trust that you might need this. And I was like, cool, thanks, bye. Very cool guy. He was the one who had the biggest boner for Ah Weiwei. Okay. Do you want to hear me rant about Jackson Pollock? Is this actually the content you want? Trying to just do chill streak. Chill. Okay. So Jackson Pollock. I'm not gonna beat up art. Okay, so Jackson Pollock, if you don't know who Jackson Pollock is, he's the dude who is super famous for all of those paintings where it's just blah, blah, blah. Like, right? Like it's a bunch of scribbles, right? And paint splashes where it's like whoosh. Right? He's that guy. No, I don't beat up art. He is that guy. He made that famous. He is considered to be one of the fathers of postmodern art, right? And abstract art, okay? If you ever see a painting that's just a bunch of paint splatters, it's probably a Jackson Pollock. He got famous because he was really good at bullshitting, to a point that he would have other people bullshit for him and he would essentially laugh in their faces. There is a quote. There is a fucking quote where Jackson Pollock had just released a new like exhibit, right? Super famous, new exhibit. He was still alive. And when artists put out a new gallery exhibit and it's all of their own work, or even just they're featured in one of them, they'll show up for it, right? That's part of it. You have to sell your stuff. Like, it's a little bit of a business. So he's there, and he's got all of these art critics, and one of them is like an art critic from like a big newspaper. I want to say they said it was the New York Times, but the New York Times doesn't fuck around, so it might have been like for an artsy-fartsy newspaper. Anyway, they were looking at this big painting, and it was a monochrome of all of these black, white, and gray paint splatters, right? And it was huge. His paintings, if you've ever seen them in person, are gigantic, okay? He had to put them on the floor to be able to paint on them, or what he called paint. And there was one tiny red dot on the side of one of his paintings. And this art critic, who's got a group of people, because you know, it was usually an open gallery, a lot of people could go in, or they would have like one night where it was just for people who were gonna buy it, or they would, on the first night or on the second night, it would be more open to the public, or they had like certain tickets. Anyway, he's talking to a group of people who don't know as much about art, and they're like, what is the meaning behind the red dot? He goes, well, obviously it symbolizes Jackson himself, and the black and white is him looking out into the galaxy and understanding how infinitesimally small he is compared to the way everything works. Right? He's going on a fucking rant. And Jackson Pollock comes over, and he's like, let's ask him. So the critic asks Jackson Pollock, and Jackson Pollock looks at the critic, and he looks at the group of people, and then he looks at the painting, and he looks real closely at the red dot, and he straightens back up, and he fucking laughs, and he goes, oh, that's a bit of paint splatter from that painting over there. I didn't know it got on it. Well, fuck. And then he just walks away laughing. His art was nuts. His art was nothing. It was nothing but paint splatters, and he knew it. He had affairs. He did fast cars. He got rich off of connections to art critics. Like he was a nothing artist who did nothing and knew it. He just made good connections and networked really well. And he was a bit of an asshole. And in like that time period, people loved the idea of like an artist that was a bit of an ass and wasn't pretentious. He was like real and hard, and he had done things, right? So he did bullshit. And he is everywhere. He is everywhere, and I hate it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. I hate when people are like, oh, let's talk about great artists. Well, there's Da Vinci and Michelangelo and Jackson fucking Pollock. Yeah. It just makes me so angry because there are so many better artists. There are so many better artists who have better skill and actually put time and concept and actually like do things. And honest to God, the art world is very much just who you know. And I hate it. Ugh. I need more tea. Oh, Jackson Pollock, by the way, died, like, driving high and drunk, going, like, 90 on a 50-mile-an-hour road. He, like, crashed into a tree, wrapped his car around it, and died. And they were like, he lived fast and dangerous. To burn brightly is to die fast. Or some bullshit like that. A lot of modern art is bullshit. A lot of fucking modern art is bullshit. Like, there was... a couple of years ago, there was an article where an artist, yes, he was one of the rock stars of the art world, and people ate it up. So was Andy Warhol. Now, he actually did printmaking, and I've done printmaking, and that was my major in art, and he actually created good art pieces. But he was also really weird. Like, towards the end of his career, he would only wear a silver wig. When seen out in public, he would only wear these huge sunglasses that were painted black with tiny pinholes so he could see. But some of them are insane. What was it? Oh, a couple of years ago, there was an article I read that came out where an artist was trying to sue a cleaning lady for an art gallery because she had, quote, destroyed one of his art pieces. Yes, that's fair. It's all in the paint, lead paint. And his art piece was literally like a used napkin, cookie crumbs, and a banana peel that he put in the corner of the museum. It was literally trash that he had collected, and he was trying to like say it was a statement, and it wasn't. Usually when you see an art piece, like there's usually like a railing. Even if you go to a modern art installation, they try really hard to make it immersive, so they'll have like really tiny ones that are closer to your ankle, so you'll kind of like run into it if you try to walk too close. There wasn't one of those. It was just in the corner, and her job was to clean up trash. She thought that someone had just done that, so she cleaned it up. And the art gallery was like, well, you can't sue us, you have to sue her. And the company that they hired for their cleaners were like, fuck no, she did her fucking job. It's not our fault that your art is nothing. So that's the kind of bullshit that pisses me off, where people are like, it's amazing, it's conceptual. And I'm like, what is it? Or did you just have a deadline? There is some really good modern art that is very conceptual and does make very good statements. But you have to wade through a lot of bullshit to get to it. Alright. That was my art rant. I'm gonna get some asshole, I'm sure, who is just like, Jackson Pollock's amazing. I jerk off to it all the time. My cum socks look like a Jackson Pollock work. Okay, I'm getting really gross now. When is my modern art coming out? When I get a rich benefactor who like believes all the bullshit. I really don't like coming up with like shitty modern art. I've had a few ideas for like modern art installation pieces, but I'm like, that would take a lot of money and time, and it would only be appreciated by like 5 different people. Was the cum sack joke too much? Too much for a Sunday morning? There's a lot of messed up things about the art world. Like if you ever talk to an artist and they do actual professional art, like they're hired by a company and they're a digital artist, they will bitch about how they have to do shit on a Mac. Because artists are stupid fucking traditionalists. We're the dumbest fucks around. And Macs used to be like the standard for graphics, right? And that's fine, but they are not anymore. But I have actually seen on applications like, do you have your own Mac computer to work on? My dad, who has been doing art for years, he's been doing graphic design since when graphic design was still just like magazine cutouts that he would have to put on a board to like create an example composition. All of his jobs, he's only worked on a Mac. It's considered unprofessional to work on anything else. So dumb. It was really nice though when in my graphic design classes, I had a Mac. I got a Mac my sophomore year of college because I needed it for my graphic design classes. It was like a requirement. Yeah, spend $500 a semester on your textbooks, but I had to spend like $2,500 for one semester on a Mac. Anyway, that I still use. A lot of them had like those PC laptops. A lot of them were guys, or they had gaming laptops, right? Or Microsoft, or like the cheaper things that they could get, right? And that was fine for the first semester of our graphic design program. But the second semester, we had to use programs that were only available on Macs. And it was like me and one other girl, and we had been getting shit for the entire first semester of, why would you spend so much money on a Mac? My PC can do everything and more. I'm so much better than you. And then it was like, ha ha ha, I can still take my work home, and you have to sit in the fucking Mac lab in the art building until midnight when they kick you out. It felt good. It felt a little good. Do you know what's also hilarious about the art world, though? They don't like to talk about how some of the great masters hated each other. They legitimately hated each other. Da Vinci and Michelangelo, who were alive around the same time. Someday, maybe. I don't think it's very likely. I think that Apple will go out of business as a company before the art world is like, maybe you can still be professional without a Mac. Anyway, talking about how, in the art world, so Michelangelo and Da Vinci lived around the same time, and they were both considered to be very great artists, but the bullshit thing was that they were compared a lot, which is fair, but at the same time, Michelangelo specialized in sculpting, and Da Vinci specialized in paintings. So, as far as anyone can be concerned, two completely different mediums. They did make Michelangelo do paintings, and Da Vinci is known for doing sculpting, but like they both kind of hated doing it, just like most artists hate doing things outside of their specialty. But what's funny is there is a known case of two unfinished murals. One was from Da Vinci and one was Michelangelo, and they were right across from each other because some rich merchant or lord had commissioned both of them at the same time to paint like right across from each other. And they hated each other so much that they couldn't be in the same room. So they either had to have like their assistants basically do the, tell Michelangelo I'm not talking to him. Will you tell Da Vinci that I'm not talking to him first? And then it got to a point where they were just like, they couldn't do it. They both unanimously decided separately that they just weren't gonna finish the commission. And they didn't get paid for it. Because they could not, they were both very egotistical. But to be fair, they were both seen as geniuses from a very young age. I just find that kind of bullshit very funny. Yes, that was my attempt at a haughty Italian accent from the Renaissance era. No, I was more just like trying to sound like an asshole. Like a pretentious asshole. Okay, I used to be able to do a Scottish accent when I was really drunk, and I think that's mostly because I could slur my words properly. And also, when I get drunk, I just have the confidence of a frat boy who's never been told no. Is that a bad analogy? Probably. I like knowing a lot of really dumb history facts because it humanizes a lot of historical figures for me. Like Hans Christian Andersen and Charles Dickens were, they knew each other, and they were actually kind of like friends to a certain degree. Hans Christian Andersen thought they were friends, and Charles Dickens kind of tolerated him. What I find really funny is Hans Christian Andersen. He's the one who wrote like the Little Mermaid. He wrote the original version of Frozen. He wrote a lot of fairy tales. That was kind of his thing. And Charles Dickens, you know, he's known for A Christmas Carol, Tale of Two Cities, probably a bunch of other things. I'm not a huge fan of Charles Dickens, but he's a very important historical figure for literary purposes, right? Well, Hans Christian Andersen apparently got like a minorly bad critique for a fictional piece he wrote for a newspaper. He got a minorly bad critique, so he laid in front of Charles Dickens's front lawn for 3 days in the mud, face down, crying. He might have been crying the whole time, but it is written that he did it for 3 straight days. Because he had been staying at Charles Dickens' house, because Hans Christian Andersen was originally from, they said he was from Sweden or the Netherlands. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. And Charles Dickens was essentially like, stop. Go the fuck home, get out of my house. Because he had been there for like almost a month, when he was supposed to only be there for like a week. And Charles Dickens and his wife were like, God damn it, you fucking drama queen, go home. And I love it. Another one, so Houdini and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, knew each other and were friends. And everyone kind of knows that Houdini made it very clear that what he did was tricks, and that they were illusions, and that magic was not a real thing, because they lived in the turn of the century. Whoop, I dropped my pen. When seances and magic and that kind of thing was like very popular, and a lot of people thought it was real. One of the people who thought it was real was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And so he believed that Houdini was an actual wizard, and Houdini, being his friend, was like, no, Arthur, I'm not. I'll show you how the trick is done. And he would show Arthur how the trick was done. And Arthur would get so upset and be like, my friend, I thought we were close. You will lie to me and not tell me how you really do magic? And Houdini was like, why aren't you dumb? To a point where they eventually stopped arguing about it, because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle just decided, like, he wrote about it in his diary, and he decided Houdini must actually be magic. He just does it on a subconscious level. So Houdini believes he's not magic, but I know he's magic. I fucking love it. Yeah, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, there was like a couple of girls and their brother, and one of their brothers, who claimed that they regularly like saw and interacted with fairies in their garden, like in their kind of countryside garden, right? And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was like, well, we have to get photographic evidence. And something that a lot of people would do, it's kind of a known fact now, but it wasn't known as much at the time then, that you could take a piece of film and take like a picture, because this was back when photographs had to have a very long, I can't remember, a long exposure time. So if you did a slightly lower exposure time on a piece of film for a photo, you could then reuse that piece of film, take a fully exposed photo, and there would be like a ghost image in the background or overlaid over the real photo. And that's how a lot of these photographs were kind of like doctored at the time to make it look like a camera could see ghosts, right? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle knew this because he hung out with Houdini a lot, and Houdini was like, don't fall for this trick is bullshit. So what Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did is he was like, oh, I will buy the film, and I will make sure that they can't tamper with it. So instead, they took like they took like fairy illustrations, and they would cut them out really close, and they would put them on like sticks, or they would hang them from wires, and then they would take the photos, so it looked like they were interacting with fairies in like real time. And because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had examined the film beforehand, he believed that they couldn't have possibly doctored it. So there is, and he published it. There's a collection of like real fairy photographs with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's okay on it, like his seal of approval of this is real. And it was towards the end of his career. I like super dumb historical facts. This is not a historical podcast. If you do look things up and like you can give me exact numbers, or you can be like, actually it was like this, cool, do it. I love learning new things, just don't be an asshole. I was obsessed with Harry Houdini for a little while as a kid, so I do have a lot of facts about him. The reason why he got so into exposing like fake mediums and seances and all of that stuff was because when he was very close with his mother, and she encouraged his interest in escape artism and magic. Because I think like his father might have been a stage magician, or one of his uncles was at one point. And she encouraged it. But she died when I want to say he was in his mid-20s. So he was an adult, but he was definitely younger, and he was not as established in his magic career, but he had already started it, and he was heartbroken over it, and he had heard of these mediums that could contact the dead, and he wanted to know if his mom was okay, so he contacted them, and his mom was from Romania, and she only spoke Romani, right? Because she, I know that this is an outdated term, but I don't know the correct term right now off the top of my head, but I think originally, like, his family, they were from a group of gypsies, and, I'm not using that as a slur, like that's what he said they were. So she only spoke Romani, which is the main language in Romania. And a lot of these mediums wouldn't know that because he spoke English fluently, because he grew up in, I think he did grow up in America. And so whenever they would give like fake notes, or they would say your mother is saying this, or I'm channeling your mother, and they talk in English, he'd be like, no, that's not what she sounded like, that's not what she would say, like or he would start talking in Romani to her, expecting her, like, if they were really channeling her, to respond in that. And so he got really upset because he's like, you're just taking advantage of people who are upset and just looking for some fucking closure. And that's why he got really into it, and I think that's really cool. He also told his wife, he was like, if I die before you, and you do seek the counseling of a medium, I will only ever and always return to you, like, on the anniversary of my death, or on his birthday, which were both very close to Halloween. I think one of them was on Halloween. Again, it's been a while, but I do remember that being really cool. Pretty sure he died on Halloween, and it like never worked. He never visited her then, so his wife was like, obviously she's like, that affirms it for me. There is no afterlife. She was also his assistant for a very long time, which I think was really sweet. I believe that there are things that haven't fully been explained. There's definitely been some very weird occurrences. There's been some very strange evidence. Unfortunately, it can't be reproduced in a way that can be validated currently by the scientific community, which is sad and upsetting. But we're always learning new things. Like, for centuries, the top minds believed that the sun revolved around the earth. Now we know that it's not. But it's very easy to get caught up in well, they've tested this and they've had these results, so it must be true. And it's like, okay, sure. Those test results say that, so it is most likely to be true. But there are things that you can't properly test in a lab or recreate in a lab. So I think it really depends. I think you should be very critical of sources, and I think you should look into things on your own and find the most credible sources possible. But I do think that there are things that science has yet to explain. Do I think all of them are true? No. But really just one has to end up being true. And eventually, if they are able to recreate it in a lab, like, it just opens up a whole new thing. a whole new world of possibilities. I absolutely want a bunch of, if we find out ghosts are real, I bet there's going to be somebody on Reddit who like posts, or somebody on fucking TikTok or whatever there is at this generic future time point where it's Aladdin in the background singing A Whole New World as they look over the test results. I have had weird things happen to me that like imply ghosts, but I've never for sure 100% myself seen a ghost. I do have ghost stories to tell, but I don't know if I should say that for like a special Halloween stream or something, if I'm still doing this by next Halloween. Or just like a late night spooky session. What are your guys' thoughts on ghosts? I don't know. You can say that it's all bullshit. Go for it. I've heard worse. Yes, and that was, I do remember reading about that, but that was also during more of the turn of the century. And that was to prove if a soul exists and if a soul has weight. Yes, I do remember reading about that. I can't remember if that was disproven, because like at the time, I don't think anyone has ever really recreated it. And if it was done during the turn of the century, there are scientists who doctor shit like that all of the time. And there's also like things that we didn't know about the body. Like around that time period, they thought that if a woman went over 25 miles an hour, her uterus would fly out of her body, so women weren't allowed on trains, and that's such bullshit. My uterus flies out of my body. I don't know what I'll do. I'll be happy I don't have to go through period pains anymore. That's what'll happen. I'm just thinking about that. But yeah, there are scientists that doctor stuff all the time. Even now, there's things where you find out like, oh, okay, well, they said it was in this specific recreatable environment, and we recreated the environment exactly, and we got different results. Like, what was the change here? They need to be preceded by band. There was a law. So my mom likes to have like medium to short length of hair, right? My dad really liked it when they were young and she had very long hair. Like she had hair like down to her waist. Oh God, it's not just one state in the US. Well, it's a good thing I don't drive. There should be a band preceding me as I drive. That would make everything safer. But there was during my AP Gov course, my junior year of high school, our teacher encouraged us to look up the weird laws of like our town. So I did, and one of them was that a woman cannot get her hair cut without her father or husband's permission. And unfortunately, I did bring that up over the dinner table, and my dad was like, well, it's the law. It is still illegal in our state for a bachelor to seduce a young woman with like a fine of up to like $10,000 or like 3 years in jail. So, if you have any hookups in college in Michigan, you could go to jail over it. There are a lot of really weird old laws like that they never apply anymore, so they don't bother to be changed, but they technically like still exist. Like it's such bullshit. It's so weird. All clubs are banned. Oh yes. I'm pretty sure, at least in my state, I think it is, you are labeled as a sexual deviant if you do anything other than the missionary position, and you can be fined for proof of that. I don't think clubs are not meant. They originally weren't meant for seducing. They were meant to be an outlet for young people to group up and socialize. And I imagine that the precursor were like gentlemen's clubs, which were kind of like just like a place that guys would go to lunch. If you've ever, yeah. Let's have the young people socialize, and it won't end in hookups. Oh God. So in the college I went to, the town right next to it. So the college that I went to is part of this town. It's a very small town in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's not a super small college. It's been growing the past few years. But it's established right on the border in between these two very small towns. And the town that the college is on loves it. Like, it's the only reason the town exists, and they know it, and they fucking love it, right? The town next to it, literally there's just a road at the edge of campus that borders those towns, and that's where almost all of the off-campus student housing is. Hates it. They hate the school. They think it's full of debauchery and heathenism, right? I had to live in that town in an off-campus apartment. And the printmaking professor and head of the department had been at my college, at my university, since its founding. So he knew all of like the juicy gossip about that town, which was amazing. And he would tell me about it because I was one of his favorite students. And he was friends with the original dean of students from when he had first started working there. And he was like, every once in a while, the dean of students, I don't know his name anymore, but I think his name was John. He'd be like, John would come in and be like, well, Dallas, he was my professor, Ellendale Sheriff called me again. He says that they're gonna come in and shut down the school because we have nude modeling in the drawing classes, and he says that's prostitution, though it's not, and he has no jurisdiction here, and he can't step foot on campus without my permission, but he's gonna shut down everything. Like, bullshit like that. The town that I lived in, though, right off of campus, when they found out that the apartments were being built off of campus to house students, and they found out that they were going to be co-ed for unmarried couples, they tried to pass a law saying that unmarried couples of men and women cannot live together in their town limits. They got slapped with a civil suit so fucking hard. Oh, but another thing that happened my sophomore year of college while I was living there. So it's a very small town. A lot of their roads don't have streetlights, right? Like, as soon as you get past the off-campus apartments, it was just farm, because it was also used to be a dry county. Yeah, at least they didn't try to make them be married, but it's essentially what they tried to do. Yeah, I think if they tried to enforce it, they could have a civil suit slapped on them real hard. But my sophomore year, it was the first time I was living off of campus, because freshmen had to live on campus unless you were living with family. Like, that's the rule for a lot of colleges, at least in my state. So living off campus, and the road that was right in between campus and my apartment complex was part of that shitty town. You know what? Let's just call it Roseville or some shit like that. I think that's an actual town, but that's not the name of the town that I was in. So Roseville owned that road, right? The road had no streetlights, and we would get alerts every time within a certain mile radius of campus that there was an assault or a mugging or a sexual assault or a robbery or anything like that, like to keep the students updated, right? I was getting at least 3 alerts every weekend, and sometimes like a couple throughout the week, of a female student getting assaulted, and usually on that stretch of road. And there were huge parking lots on that apartment complex that like had maybe 1 or 2 streetlights, right? Because our apartment complex fucking sucked. And it was me, my female roommate, and then we had 2 male roommates who were really great guys. And they would kind of like walk us to our cars or the bus stop if we needed to. late at night, and the college went to the town and they were like, you have to put streetlights up. Our students are getting attacked. And the town refused. And it was essentially, well, if they don't want to be attacked, they shouldn't be out at night. Like, it gets dark at 6:30 sometimes here. And classes run until 10 p.m. sometimes. So it took almost a full semester. But what the school decided to do is on their side of the road. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So on their side of the road, they put up their football stadium lights at like one at every bus stop and one at every like half mile. And they were the huge stadium lights. That town had street lights up within a week. And they made the school take the stadium lights down. Like, it was that level of just petty bullshit where the town was like, our people aren't being attacked. I don't know what you're talking about. It was just, it fucking sucked. The bullshit politics of the school. I think it, like, I don't know if it gets dark at 4:30 here. I think the latest it will get dark here is like, the earliest in the winter will be like maybe 5 o'clock. I think it starts to get dark at 4:30. Pitch black here. I kind of want to live in like a northern area, like even further north than where we are, just because I prefer nighttime over daytime. Sunlight gives me migraines. Overexposure to bright lights, even just sometimes like really bright fluorescent office lights, I'll get a migraine from it. Because, yeah, basically I'm a fucking vampire. I have these giant aviator sunglasses. My cheeks are also so pale that if I have any kind of sunglasses that don't cover like the top part of my cheeks and a little bit of my eyebrow, the sunlight will reflect off of my skin and like shine into my eyes. But I want to live in a very northern area, so it gets really dark all the time. But I also know that I hate the cold. And I would just use it as another excuse to just never go outside. Can't go outside. It snowed half an inch. Ginger, you literally grew up in almost the Great White North. Almost. What a lot of Southern people consider to be part of the Great White North. Like, just put on a coat. Nope, can't go outside. I thought that it was normal, because not everyone in my family is a ginger, but if they're not ginger, they're like blonde and blue-eyed. So most of them are super light sensitive as well. So I thought that was normal until I also thought that I had really bad vision. I do. I have, like Atlanta, I have really bad vision for a normal person. Like I have huge eyes, but I have terrible peripheral vision, and I don't know why. But I have really good nighttime and low light vision if I'm wearing my glasses so that I can actually focus, because my eyes are big, so I can take in a bunch of light, and I'm also very ginger and very pale. So I always thought I had really bad eyes at night because the people in my family who are blonde and blue-eyed have even better night vision. Like, they're like owls. And then I met Art, and he's like, I can't see anything in the dark ever. my brother probably has really bad low light vision because he got like the dominant traits from the gene pool, but also the ones that aren't. My family's just a bunch of recessive traits, and he somehow got all of the dominant ones, where he's got like really dark brown eyes and almost black hair, and he tans. He tans like there's no tomorrow. I have no idea how he does it. Honestly, we go outside and people assume we're not related, and it's a little sad. And then they hear us talk and we sound like we have the same, almost the same mannerisms. Yeah, that's not looking too bad. Do kind of want to incorporate like slightly different textures. That's not what I want. Yes. No. Too big. Still too big. Okay. Give it a little bit more of like a woodsy texture. Hey, without using Google, does anyone know what that little divot in between your nose and your mouth is? I do. And I want to show off that I know what it is. I will give you for as long as it takes for me to draw this, which might be an eternity, or I might get it done right away. Who knows? Ah, shit. Fuck. You're both very wrong. Livid Lemming, if you're still here, do you want to try a guess? No proof. I know what it is. I actually had to learn this in my high school art class. Our teacher was like, there's a thing on your body that you don't know the name of, what the fuck? To the entire class, not just to me. Okay. I could just make anything up here. It is actually called your philtrum. I think it's with a PH. I also know how to say it in Korean because my parents made me take a Korean martial arts class for many years, and it's actually a pressure point. So if you manage to hit someone in the face and the mouth, it'll hurt extra hard if you manage to hit a knuckle into the philtrum right here. But in Korean, it's also inchung, because they also made us memorize Korean vocab words in karate class. So there you go. Now you know. Now you can show off, like I just did. Haha. Useless knowledge. No. I'm just like 20 useless facts and stories hiding in a trench coat. Really hiding in a big sweatshirt. At least I'm comfy, yes. I drew the chin way too high. I'm just gonna erase this. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. So something that I learned like younger-ish in life is that American fashion is known, as opposed to European fashion, everyday fashion, is known to prioritize comfort over style. And I remember thinking, like, when I was 16, I was like, that's such bullshit. Like, almost all my clothes are super uncomfortable to wear, and I'm constantly like fidgeting to fit things. And that's when I realized, like, oh, they took into account men's fashion. Men's fashion in America apparently prioritizes comfort over look, which I think is kind of accurate. Not that it can't look good and be comfy. It's just that it prioritizes being comfy. Or like American men, and I guess women now more so than in the early 2000s, would prioritize comfier clothes over fashionable clothes. But could also be because like we as a work culture kind of established casual Fridays, which I hear in a lot of places in Europe are not as much of a thing. As I hear about in Europe. Exactly. And the only kind of cheese that I know of that leaves stains is the spray cheese, and that's even more American than just regular sweatpants. Cheese whiz. I'm a fan of a lot of junk foods. I am not a fan of cheese whiz. I am also not a fan of the way this shading is going. You might have just heard me slurp some of my tea and try not to choke on it. I am a fully formed adult who knows how to drink things out of a cup. Something I really like about Clip Studio Paint is that any brush you use, like there's this, the first color, that's the one I have selected, that's the one I have selected I'm using right now. Give you a secondary color that you can pick, and then there's this one, and that makes the brush an eraser, so that you don't, like if I wanted a softer eraser than this hard one that I normally use, I could just select this and very gently just go over everything, rather than having to like adjust my eraser settings every time I wanted a different kind of eraser. I think that's cool. I like that. Oh, fuck. Oh, I guess the microphone picked up my stomach growling. I like woke up a little late, so I haven't had breakfast yet. Is it? See, I was just punching myself in the stomach. Nom, nom, nom. He's already hiding in a closet of his own studio. Now that my stomach has growled, all I can think about is food. Maybe I should take a short break and like shove a granola bar down my throat. I forgot to block that phrase again. Thank you, Try Hard Friend. That's okay. I can do it later. I remember to. I'll remember to this time. I'm trying to go for some more very soft shading on the face rather than like the slightly harsher shading like on the shirt where it gets a lot deeper and darker. Okay, I think right now is a good time to take a quick break. I'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you for hanging out. Okay, one more hour in the stream. Do you think we'll finish her today? Probably not. But I am liking how she's looking so far. She's not perfect, but that's okay. Thank you. Had a granola bar, but like it's like carbs, so my body is no longer dying and super hungry. But all I can think about is the fact that I'm gonna be making pretzel dogs later today for dinner, which are hot dogs wrapped in homemade pretzel dough, and I am so excited. Oh, they're so good. And I've got like liquid nacho cheese to dip it in. Oh, so good. I really like food. I am not a foodie, but I really like food and I really like cooking. And I like taking pictures of food because if it looks pretty or it looks really appetizing, I'm like, I'm gonna want to look at that later. I used to post them on Instagram, like on my story, like, look at this cool thing I made. And sometimes I'll put them in a Discord even, Tryhard's Discord, but most of the time I'm just like, I just save it to a folder in my phone titled food, and I just look at it sometime. Actually, the first time I made tteokbokki, which is like spicy Korean rice cakes with fish cake. Oh god, it's amazing. I also made rice balls, like the triangular onigiri ones. And I plated it really nice, and I took a picture, and that was my phone background for a year and a half. It was food, and every time I opened my phone, I'd get really hungry. Sorry, I was messing around on the computer for a hot minute. Oops. Sorry, the heating system in the apartment is not very good. So when I have my studio closed for the full 3-hour stream, like about halfway through, it starts getting really cold in here and I get a little sniffly. I try not to sniffle into the microphone, but it's just not super pleasant. I'm a little chilly. Just a little chilly. Thinking about pretzel dogs. Be so tasty. Gonna have to do dishes first. That makes me sad, but it's totally worth it. I had to move a cord. Big stretch. Oh goodness, and a yawn. Ow. Hit my hand on my desk in the process of stretching. Kinda glad you guys can't hear like my bones pop and crack. At least I don't think you can. My bones popping and crack? I took a stretch for a minute, and I could hear my own bones. No bone popping. I have a lot of double joints, but I can't, like, not in the places where I could, like, pop out my shoulder and pop it back in, or, like, my elbows or anything. Just very nearly do it. I'm very susceptible to straitjackets, unfortunately. A thing that I used to be able to to do when I was younger is I used to be able to pop my jaw back and forth. Turns out that was damaging it severely. And the orthodontist, when I got braces, was like, you have to stop doing that. So sometimes I'll like move my jaw open and hear it pop a little bit. I haven't done it in years and years and years, so I don't think I can do it anymore, which is probably a good thing, because I would do it like every hour. Cracking your knuckles is fine. Cracking your jaw is not. It's a little bit more of a complex joint, I imagine. The reasoning. Why am I so fucking tired? I was fine, the tea helped wake me up, and now I'm ready for like a nap. Maybe it's because I'm hungry. Sometimes when I get really hungry, I'll also get really tired. But I guess it's not a normal thing for people. As I become an adult, I'm learning that I might have all of these weird health issues. I'm definitely not overly full. For that short break, I just had a granola bar and like a glass of milk, so like just enough to keep me going for the rest of the stream before I can like stop and have a real meal and just, I don't know, maybe it'll be ramen. Oh, ramen's so good. I don't often food coma, but after a huge bowl of like really spicy ramen with fish cake and sometimes bacon and like a couple soft-boiled eggs, oh, I'm down and out for like the rest of the day. Do you want to hear something really funny about my grandparents that I'm totally going to tell you anyways, no matter what your answer is? So, my grandparents have been married, right? Sure, why not? My grandparents have been married for a very long time. And my great-grandmother, to preface the story, has been smoking since she was like 12. She's in her 80s now. And so my grandma, her daughter, my grandmother, always thought it was really gross. Her brothers smoked. Most of them were in the military at some point, so it kind of made sense, but she thought it was gross. Well, through one stressful period of her life, she started smoking. And my grandfather, who grew up in a much more strict kind of Catholic household, no, they're not going to get mad. He did get upset that my grandmother had started smoking. They were already married by this point. So in the way he protested her smoking is he just stopped kissing her entirely. Now, I've never seen my grandparents get overly affectionate. They're very they're not cold, they're still warm people, but they're not they're not physically affectionate very often. But this was early enough into their marriage where apparently that pissed my grandma off to no end, that she did quit smoking because it was just out of sheer stubbornness. I think for a little while she continued to smoke out of spite, where she was just like, well, fine, I guess you won't kiss me. And then my grandma was like, yeah, exactly, I won't. And she got really upset. I've never seen my grandmother smoke a cigarette at all, ever. So I think this was when my dad's youngest sister was very young. So a few years before I was born. Because she and I are a little closer in age. Yeah, I always thought that was kind of cute and really funny. Especially because from my experience, they've never been overly physically affectionate. But he just was, well, fine, I just won't kiss you then. And my grandfather is usually a very chill, kind of go with the flow kind of guy most of the time. So he really, that was his way of putting his foot down. I thought it was very funny. And very cute. Kinda, yeah. Very stubborn solution. To be fair, I've gone out with smokers and kissing someone who's just had a cigarette. Not tasty, not a good time. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. My great-grandmother, she only stopped smoking cigarettes when she had to go into a assisted living / nursing home. It's because you can't smoke in a medical facility. Apparently, every time my grandmother, her daughter, goes to see her, she had to go into a nursing home right before COVID because she had a series of strokes, one right after the other, within an hour. And this was right before quarantine, so we're actually a little lucky that she was able to get in so fast. But every time my grandmother would go to see her or call her, my great-grandmother would ask her to bring her cigarettes. She'd be like, what do you need? Oh, wow. Yeah. For the longest time, I did believe that weird, anti-smoking fact of you'll grow hair on your tongue. And that really stopped me as a teenager, because I had friends who smoked to rebel against their parents in high school, and they're like, do you want one? And I was like, no, because I was terrified of growing hair on my tongue. And then I talked to someone who had been smoking for a very long time. They're like, no, you don't just grow hair follicles on your tongue because of cigarettes. No, my great-grandmother would always ask my grandmother her daughter every time she visited or called. She'd be like, "Oh, Mom, do you need anything?" She'd go, "Yeah, can you bring me some cigarettes?" And apparently when all of her sons would visit, she would never say that. And my grandma would go, "No, Mom, I'm not bringing you cigarettes." And my great-grandmother would usually respond with, "I knew you'd say that." Like, she said it just to bug my grandma. I think just to piss her off a little bit. My family is very loving, but a lot of us operate a little bit out of spite. Like, we like to be a little mean and make fun of each other. In a loving, caring kind of way. Trial by fire. Like Gacto Pony's my uncle, so once in a while when he comes into chat, he'll get a little crueler than what most people can get away with, and that's fine. He's my dad's youngest brother, and I think he's only 14 years older than me, so he was almost like an older brother to me too, which was kind of cool. He showed me how to play World of Warcraft on dial-up internet when I was very little. Back before World of Warcraft became super popular and really toxic. That was kind of also how my grandma made sure that he wasn't doing anything bad online, because he would play on dial-up internet on the family computer in like the dining/living room area. And I would be like 4 years old and I would barely know how to read. I'd just be able to recognize a few words. There was a pre-toxic phase. Yeah, like in the very early months. And I would come over and I would ask him to read me what he was typing to his friends so that I would know what they were saying. And I think, because my grandma would usually be in the kitchen like making lunch or something by this time, and I think that was a little bit of her way of knowing what he was doing online. She'd be like, "I'll just send the little one after him." And I want a button that I can press where I get. I am getting to the heart, yes. I want to get like a little button that I can press that'll like do the soundbite of Kronk going like, "Oh yeah, it's all coming together." That's how I feel right now. Like, it's starting to look pretty okay. Alrighty. So this is as far as we've got. Made some really good progress. I will probably finish this before next Wednesday on my own time. There won't be a stream next weekend because, it's the holiday weekend. I'm going to be with family. And maybe I'll be streaming sometime Monday or Tuesday, maybe, of this coming week. So tomorrow or Tuesday, but probably not. I will update the stream schedule on Twitch. And so I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. If you like the stream, let me know. If you want to see more of my work, you can find me at my social media. I've also got speed paints up on YouTube. Thank you to Tryhard Friends, Spectre, and Livid Lemming for coming to say hi. And thank you to everybody else who came to check out the stream, even if you weren't in chat. I do appreciate it. Yeah, let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like to see in the future. I do take some recommendations. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.